Hello friends, and welcome back to another video. This one has been highly requested, and honestly I've been really excited to film it, but I don't know exactly the best format or exactly what I'm doing with it because it's just sort of my scrapbook. Today I am going to show you my crochet, craft, natural dye, basically all things handmade, my bullet journal for those things. By the way, if you're new here, I am Laura. This is the Last Minute Laura channel. I hope you'll subscribe, and if you haven't yet, like the video. It really helps the channel out, and I definitely appreciate every one of you who does that. Okay, now let's open it. Always, I start with blank pages. I really don't like starting a journal. I don't like the feeling that I've ruined the first page, so I usually leave the first page as blank. Moving through, the first picture I've gotten here is of my grandma. My grandmother, Patricia, she passed away when I was little, but this is a photo from 1960 and she was in nursing school, and I just think it's such a sweet photo. So I put it in my bullet journal. Then on the first couple of pages, I was super inspired by the farm that my parents purchased. So I started drawing out my perfect farm. If you can see, I want there to be a bush or forest around. I want to line the entire property with lilacs. I want some apple trees, some peach and cherry and plum trees. I want a big garden. I'd love to have some goats, maybe some dogs, a chicken, a couple of chickens. I want to have a big fire pit, a raspberry thicket, and the house itself, it doesn't matter. I just want it to be a small house, but everything else is kind of my dream. I even had it scale. 4 meters by 4 meters is every little box. Next, still inspired by the farm. This was last year. Oh, by the way, this bullet journal is just from 2019, so keep that in mind. This is an apron, a pinafore apron idea I was trying to hash out. So I was adding all the things that I thought would be helpful for my mom and dad at the farm. So a little cell phone holder with a flap with Velcro, because my dad drops his phone a lot. Pockets that have drawstrings, carabiner hooks so he can take a hammer out with him, things to hold the garden tools in general, and a drawstring around the bottom so that you can pull up the bottom of the apron and use it like a bag. You could carry something in there. So still haven't made it, but I do have the design that I want to eventually make. This is how I was originally drawing my patterns, really like a technical drawing. Then back into the perfect house, but also my very first attempt at natural dye. So this happened in our old apartment, which be careful if you're doing natural dyeing in the part of your house where you're also making food. It's not poison, but some of the things you use with it are poison, so take all of my advice with a grain of salt because I'm not an expert in anything. I'm just showing you what I did. So onion peels on cotton made this beautiful orange. Then we have blackberries, coffee, and red rose petals, which all just made varieties of brown, honestly. I love all the colors, but it's fun to see how they've aged. Then I have a really nice drawn out map of what I would hope our future home looks like. I got really into this house development idea where I was like, I have even where I want to have our bees because I want to do beekeeping. I have that listed out. I have like, we want a small cabin and like a little fenced area and lots of trees that we don't cut down, like pine trees and big trees. Lots of raspberries, lots of lilac. I got really inspired and I just thought this was a really fun thing to work on last year. But I glued in some of my Concord grape avocado dyed yarn. I want to see how the Concord grape ages. Everything online that I found says that it's a futile, is that the right word? Futile dye, which means it's going to eventually fade back to nothing. But this specific piece is like a full 2 years old and it hasn't faded. So I'm just leaving it in the book to see how it goes. Next is my most used basic sleeve. So just so I never forget it, I have the sizes, how long things should be, how many stitches, and I have it written out just in case somehow I forget what I'm doing. I can always go back to this sleeve and modify from this pattern that I made. Moving forward, I've got a bunch of designs that I drew out. I actually have made both of these. This one on the video, on the channel, sorry, is called the turkey top. So if you're looking for what this turned into, turkey top. This one, I don't believe this is on the channel as a video, but it is a really nice wool shrug that I made a little while ago. I haven't made this one yet. This one's not yet made. Still excited about this one. It's going to be a really wide turtleneck, and I want it to have like a nice tight fitted bottom so that it's like a little cozy but a little sexy. This one, I mean, I've made it a million times. This is like a short sleeve puffy jumper, and there are multiple videos on my channel of me making things very similar to this. Actually, this one kind of looks like my scrap sweater, this shape, with the wide neckline and the short sleeves and the extra wide body. Check out my Instagram, you'll see a sweater that actually fits that design, and I wasn't even designing from this. Next, I have this handmade graphing sort of thing. So what I was doing was I made each of the rows of a bullet journal one stitch and each of the columns one stitch. So all the rows this way are supposed to be one row of half double crochet, and then all of the rows this way are how many stitches. So basically I just followed that graph. I would do like red, 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 and then for the next 2 stitches I'd switch to gray. Red, 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 switch to gray. And over time, it just sort of built out handmade. Honestly though, I started from the bottom because I do my sweaters bottom up. So really I was doing it like this. So it didn't say handmade, it created made first and then hand. That one's also on my channel. Next, some designs that didn't end up panning out. This one did not look cute when it was made, but I still tried, so I designed it. And plants I would like to grow. I have a second page for it, 112 as well. Lots of different plants that I would love to grow in the future. I want to do cherry trees, plum trees, mulberry trees, figs, trees for decorating, lilac, maple, birch, oak, cherry blossom, magnolia, food, cucumbers, carrots, tomatoes, peppers, sweet potatoes, green beans, peas, green onions, spinach, lettuce, zucchini, squash. For fun, loofah plants, flax seeds for linen, and wheat for the bees, wildflowers, local weeds, dandelions. So I just have like nice lists of things that I like. This is a dress that never came to pass. I did make one piece of fabric that looks like this. I didn't make the second piece. This is all done with my hand-dyed yarn. It's a beautiful scarf, but I never ended up turning it into a dress. I still should make a dress like that. It's a really pretty fabric. Isn't that nice? I even worked on like how I shaded it in. Next, I did make this one. I made this into a crocheted bodice. I just never built it into a dress. That might be a project for this year. This is how it actually ended up. These were like some prototype ideas. Like, did I want to do a corset background, corset lace up back, or did I want to do buttons? I ended up doing buttons and sewing in buttonholes by hand and having a tie at the top and a tie at the bottom. And I think it looks really cute. It's very fitted. These are just, I didn't even write the pattern out. I wanted to make a skirt, but that looks like so much yarn is required to make a crocheted skirt, so I haven't done it yet. Also, I was out and I saw a lady wearing something like this, and it was so cute that as soon as Alex and I got into the coffee shop we were going to, we were downtown Toronto, in the, I almost said Byward Market, that's Ottawa. We were in the market though, what is that called? St. Lawrence Market. And we were on our way to Balzac's Coffee, and I saw a lady wearing something like this, and I thought it was so cute. So as soon as we got there, I drew it out, and I like tried to determine how it's made, like broke up the pieces of it, and I still want to make that. That should be a 2020 goal this year. I really would love to make this. I think it's super cute. And then we move on to the sweater dress. I have my very basic instructions. I wasn't writing out patterns at this point, it was just for me at this point. But I've got the pictures of what the pieces should look like and the final piece. And honestly, it's pretty close to that. It's very baggy and very warm. The sleeves are like this, very baggy. I love this sweater, the baggy sweater dress. Lori made this one. One of the crew from the live stream gang, Lori made this one. Thank you for making it, Lori. I love when you make my patterns. This one is my favorite sweater. You've probably seen it if you've been around here for a little while. It's Laura's 90s vibe pullover. I find it to have a 90s vibe to it, like those tights that we used to wear when we were children that were all kinds of bright decorated patterns. I feel like these are the colors that were in there. At this point, I was even writing down the color of yarn and how many balls of yarn I used. This only took 5 balls of yarn. That's amazing. And the wool that I used, Briggs & Little Regal in Briar Rose, Sage, and Lilac. And then I love how I did the instructions here. I did the instructions for the body piece inside of the body piece. I did the instructions for the back piece inside a shape that looks like the back piece. I think that's pretty cute. And then the sleeve, same thing. Oh, good things are coming. I hope so. A yarn order. Oh, the Uncle Dean pullover. This one was, actually my Uncle Dean asked me to make him a sweater, and recently he asked me to make him a second one. So if you have any suggestions, this is his vibe. What color should I do for his next sweater? This one I was trying to copy the way that the Cabot Trail looks in Nova Scotia. We have a photograph that kind of looks like this. It's like a hill with the highway on it, the trees all on the side. So I kind of thought this encompassed that Nova Scotia vibe. I have the pictures again, I have the colors I used. This one doesn't have the instructions in it because I was just making it up as I went along. Next, I've got the New Baby Scratch Mittens. This one I wrote the instructions in because I needed to have a pattern ready. This one was for a video, so if you have a baby who needs to have some mittens made, go onto my channel and look for New Baby Scratch Mittens. This, the one that has the pink, the pink mittens, that's gonna be the one that has the best instructions, the newest one. This is one that I made on the go as well. It had no rhyme or reason or pattern, so I just named it the Bobble Raindrops Vest. I feel like it looked like the dots get more close together as I get down to the bottom, so I thought it looked like rain. And so I drew it. I don't know how to draw faces, so I ended up scribbling out the face and I made it look like it's a storm cloud. Anyway, I wear this one quite a bit because it's very comfy. Oh, next, this is one of my favorite sweaters I've ever made. I actually think this is my favorite sweater I've ever made. I think I want to do a detailed talk through of this sweater. I'm going to borrow it from my mom. It was my mom's Christmas sweater. I called it Mom's Garden Pullover. Very basic pullover design, but I did it all in single crochet. So it was super dense and so pretty. It honestly, it looks like something that you buy for a lot of money, I think. So I will borrow that one from her and show you guys this one up close. If you see anything in this bullet journal that you want to see the actual project that goes with it, like this one is my Local Buzz pullover, just let me know in the comments and I will go through that individual garment in a little bit more detail. So this one is another one that I made. It's out of wool and it's got big puffy sleeves. I love this one. The puffy sleeve jumper, that one's actually a whole different jumper. Let's see if there it is. So I have the sleeve measurements. I don't have the stitch numbers because it made it as I went. I'm not like a full pattern maker. I sometimes just make it up as I go. So the technical drawing is like, it's a very big, it's almost a circle, but in practice I wanted it to like hang kind of droopy. And then I did write out the body pattern, which is kind of unimportant if you don't have the sleeve pattern to go with it, but both of the actual instructions with the stitch numbers are on the channel, so you can find it if you want to. Oh, look at that! Oh, so responsible. I did do the sleeve. So there's the puffy sleeve. Well done, Laura. Laura from the past. Oh, next, I did a yoga sock. So if you don't have a yoga sock yet, friends, make yourself some yoga socks. These ones have the heel and the toe are exposed so that you can still grip while you're doing your yoga. And it's just worked in 3 steps, really. You make a rectangle, add a rectangle on one side, make a rectangle on the other, but they're not connected. And then you just sew up the seam. It's a tube, and then you put your foot in. Easy peasy. Then we move on to that puffy jumper. And then the basic dress that I never made. I drew it out and I was so pumped for how it was gonna look, like sewn up the sides, but with a nice gap on either side. I just never ended up making it. So maybe this is gonna go on the list for 2020. Also, shout out to the stains all over this book. It just goes everywhere with me. Oh, this is a card from, I think it's from my sister, yeah. I love the card she sends, so I just wanted to keep one with me, a nice textured one with some gold. More pictures of my grandma. This one's from 1957. I think this one's also from 1957, and this one doesn't even have my grandma in it. It was just one of the photos there, and I thought it was so cute. It's just a group of friends sitting together. My grandma would have been near them, but maybe she took the picture. because there's other pictures from that day. Oh, next, the City Place pullover. I made this one in honor of the sunset that we had out of our living room window when we lived in Toronto. We lived right under the CN Tower facing Lake Ontario. So we had this beautiful sunrise every single morning, and the sunrise and sunset both had all of these colors essentially, and it turned out really a lot like this. Somebody recently made this and sent me a photo, and they made it exactly the same way. It was so crazy to see somebody else have this sweater across the world. So this one has a pattern to go with it, and it is available on my channel. Me trying to draw a man's body unsuccessfully. Oh, the first drawing of the Lori vest, this cropped vest. This was my first attempt at drawing out a vest, trying to figure out how big things needed to be. A couple of samples of yarn without any label, which is kind of like me, but they're hand-dyed for sure. Oh, next, we've got Thunder's really easy dog sweater. Funny thing is, this is the exact same thing as the yoga sock. Like literally it is the same pattern, because once I finished the yoga socks, I put them on Thunder and it fit as a sweater. So I redid it as a dog sweater, but it's the exact same. His legs come out here instead of your heel, and instead of your toes, it's his head. But it's the same thing, a little cute pupperoo. And this is the yarn I used again, naturally dyed Concord blue grapes and avocados. Here is the cropped vest. I was feeling super inspired by my grandma and these pictures of her and her friends. And I just love how all of the girls are wearing these long skirts in 1957 and these collared shirts. And like the ones that are like super revealing have like a little bit of shoulder showing. And all of the sweaters are cut right at that skinny point, like nobody's wearing these hip length sweaters. So I wanted to do a vest in that sort of a style, and I did. It's available on the channel as well as cropped vest, and it's super cute, honestly. I still wear this one fairly often. Attempt number 2 at drawing the human form, not excellent at it, still working. There's the Local Buzz sweater in more detail. This one has the actual explanation of the sleeves and the body, and a really weirdly positioned figure with delightfully puffy 3/4 length sleeves. Don't judge my drawings of people because I'm just trying to get the clothing drawing out. I'm not an expert at drawing by any means. Oh, I love this spread. So this one, I was feeling very homesick, and I drew out what I could remember from my childhood home, from the kitchen window, what I could remember. Because on a snowy day, my mom would always bake, if there was a snow day, my mom was the teacher, she would always bake orange braid, cinnamon buns, and hot cross buns. And then after it was all done and made, we would have to go out into the crazy snow and deliver them to our neighbors across the road. There were a few other neighbors along the sides, and beside us on either side, we'd have to deliver all these baked goods to everybody. And it's like my snow day memory is like, this is what it looked like out the kitchen window, and this is what we had to bring to our neighbors. I think it's still a pretty good representation of what it looked like too. There was that maple tree in the front yard with yarn all around it because I would make rope out of yarn and climb a tree. Wild child. Another attempt at the human form. Again, I was trying this time to figure out with the joints how things sit. I still don't get it, but I feel like in this one I started to understand hands a little better. Attempt at making a hat that turned into looking like the doll from Toy Story with the legs with a, what is that, a pterodactyl head on it or whatever. Anywho, and then I did a foot video. I watched a video on how to draw feet, and I tried to do it via shapes. Did what I could. Not an expert. Another attempt at a, what is this called? A halter. Haven't made it yet. Don't really think it'll work. Why would you want to wear a wool halter? I don't think you would. Another attempt at naked lady drawing. I've got hands, and look how good this hand is. I think that looks pretty hand-like. This one does not. This looks like a cartoon witch, but this one looks kind of hand-like, and I feel like this looks like an actual naked lady. Like, I feel like her boobs are small enough to be realistic. She's got a little fat around her hips. I don't know. This is another attempt that I made at drawing the female form, though. I don't get it, but I'm trying. This one never got made, but it was a knit project I wanted to do. Oh, clover flowers embroidered. That's a nice idea still, around the neckline of like a tank top. Haven't made that one yet either. Then I bought some markers. As you can see, everything up until this point is colored in with pencil crayons. And then I bought some markers. And then I tried to understand how they work together because they are not blendy. This shirt, I still want to make this shirt too. Cropped in the front, long in the back, just a lot of stripes. It's very going to be 2 rectangles. This is going to be, I think, the like rectangles only shirt that I'm going to be coming out with soon. Plans to collect for dye. Super job. Oh, and then I get into natural dye. Hold on a sec, I've got a phone call. So here is where I get into natural dye really hardcore at this point in the year. I was collecting mushrooms, drawing them out, labeling them, explaining all the parts. I was taking books out of the library at this point and writing down everything I could find from the different books. I've got Heritage of Color by Jenny Dean. This was a really good book. It had lots of information about mordants, and so I wrote down everything that I thought would be relevant, and this was in May. And then I moved into keeping samples of the dyes that I made. So this one is the Concord Grapes and Iron Mordant. You can see it's faded almost entirely at this point. There's still some darkness, some gray tones. The Avocado Pits still have sort of a purpley tone, but they've faded quite a bit too on paper and on paper towel. And then some more samples, red clover and aster blossoms, turkey tail mushroom, red rose tea, and birch bark, and then fresh plum branch tips, leaves, and flowers. Isn't that nice? That's a pretty color. I'm going to do that again this spring. Oh, sorry about this. Not sorry, I think it's fun. I did my first black walnut dye, so I had what the leaves look like, what the fruit looks like, things like harvest in autumn, features, tree height up to 120 feet, lots of like fun little information, what colors you get when you use different mordants, and some of my examples of what I got from them. So I got really dark browns, beautiful bright browns, a couple of sort of grayish tans, and something almost at an orange, like it's kind of close to this amber color. So you can get some pretty awesome colors with these. Oh, birch bark, I even have how to harvest it. But the inner bark of birch bark is also a good natural dye for like a purpley red. Useful tools for yarn dyeing. I had made a list of all the things that were helpful that I was using. Like my bullet journal, I need pens, pencil, ruler, markers, pencil crayons. For handling, I need rubber gloves, tongs, wooden spoon, scissors, paring knife. Just all the things that I think are important for me to have around when I'm dyeing things. So this is my plum example. I drew out what the flowering branches look like and what the fruiting branches look like. I didn't fill out all the information, but I do have a little example from it. I think it's so fun. And then wild violets. I was also getting really into edible, wild edibles at this point. I really love knowing all of that information about what's growing around me, and there were tons of wild violets growing around me. So I drew out what they looked like when they're on the ground, and I found that they do not work at all for natural dye, but they are good for like eating on a salad, like the flowers are edible, so there's that. Moving forward, I started some Queen Anne's lace dye. I loved dyeing with this stuff. It smells so good. The whole house smells like sweet carrots when you cook with this. You fill a huge pot full of this and boil it in water for like 6 hours. But the colors that you can get are this nice beautiful yellow. You can also get a really deep dark green, like an army green, and some kinds of gold if you're mixing different metals in with them. That was fun. Then we got a little picture of thunder from the end of May. Oh, here's more on the birch bark. So the birch bark, it was supposed to be like a pinky red color, some purpley vibe. It didn't. It totally was just kind of like an orange. Maybe I did not do it properly, but I've got my instructions. I did a little Dutch door in the middle there. I think that's cute. Then I did some logo designing. None of these turned into the logo, actually. That's okay though. They're still cute. And then I did rose leaves, dry lilies, and birch bark. This was basically a waste of a ball of yarn. It was just like the palest yellow. I used it, so it wasn't a waste, but it was, look, I even wrote, I honestly think that this was a waste of time and a bust. The color is fine enough, but it does not seem light fast. I will most likely over dye this skein to be able to sell it. If I do this again, I would try it with iron as a mordant instead of alum. So just little notes like from past me to future me. My sister was getting married, we were getting some t-shirts done. And then my turkey tail, red rose tea, and birch bark brown. So it's just a tan sort of brown, but I pretty much just boiled everything that I had as far as like my wild things. I just had a bunch of things left over, so I boiled them. Next, red clover and aster blossoms. This is lucky that it did anything because I used so many flowers to do this. Don't worry, I was only harvesting ones that were like on the end because these are really like popular among the bees. So I waited until they were like already done and I was harvesting them at the end of the day so that they had already had a full day of being used by the bees. But it's a pretty yellow green. It's cute. It looks nice. I'll do that one again too. Dried tiger lily. This one, it didn't do anything, so after I finished it, I wasn't even inspired to finish the information. It created 0 color. This is useless for natural dye. Oh, this is when I started making some video ideas in this book. So I was trying to like write out scripts. That doesn't really work for me, but I tried and it was okay. And I tried to have like a shot list that I wanted to do: before shots, after shots, overhead, time-lapse, B-roll. Again, I don't think I did any of that, but I tried. Same thing for the tiger lily. I didn't finish it because I didn't do the video, but same idea: before shot, after shots, and like you're watching Last Minute Laura, and then the intro and stuff. I was so organized at certain points. And then Japanese maple, this one was fun. I don't have a color of the yarn in here, but it makes a really nice khaki color green. And I thought it was really nice. Next time, use more of the plant and less wool for a darker color. That's what it says. Very dark gray with a greenish bluish underglow to it, which is, I think, pretty cool. And I have a Japanese maple tree in my backyard, so I'm gonna do that. This is actually an imprint of the tree, of the leaf, and then I used it to draw a different one. Trying to play with, what are these? Pastels. Not ideal. And then writing myself letters, types of videos I want on my channel: foraging, crochet, hand sewing, natural dye, crochet projects, craft or food tutorials, live streams, blogs, and learning plant stuff. Another weird picture of Thunder. I feel like this one looks like he's very tired. I drew this in July. What a weird picture. A blank page. Ooh, how interesting. And then some chicory blossoms and root, just a little bit of information on them, like that the roots are good for making coffee. So still haven't made the chicory root coffee. You might know this as corn flour, but the chicory root coffee, I haven't made it, but I did harvest a whole bunch of the roots and dehydrate them. So I just have to roast it, grind it, and make it into coffee to test it. Oh, the turkey top, here we go. So the turkey top is this fella. I made this one out of all dyed yarn that I had dyed myself. Most of it was dyed with black walnuts, so that one's on the channel as well. It's called the turkey top. Different avocado color turnout. So with alum, pre-mordanted with alum, and modified with alum, you get this sort of peachy pink. Pre-mordanted in alum and then modified with iron turns gray. Pre-mordanted in alum modified with wood ash gives me a nice pink. So just to remember those. Next, I got into the dog sweater. So this is my initial draw out of the dog sweater and the initial instructions. My bird list of birds we've seen. I just haven't updated it. It looks like I've only seen 12 birds, but that is not true. Actually, while filming this, I paused at one point because I saw a coyote. For the first time while living here, I saw a coyote in my backyard. Big, beautiful, healthy coyote. It looked like a giant fox. Anyway, moving forward, here's my other picture. I ended up using the gold yarn for Thunder's sweater, the measurement areas you need to have for your dog, and yeah, just a little more information on how I made that sweater. And then onion skins, and avocado pits. So you can see onion skins when you add iron, onion skins when you add alum. Totally different color from the same, pretty much waste product. The dry onion skins, you don't use them for anything. Ooh, I like this one. How to make wood ash solution for alkaline color modification. Basically, you're making homemade lye. So this is, I did a video on this one, how to make homemade lye. Oh, this one was beautiful. Black Eyed Susans. This was a beautiful color. Dark, beautiful dark khaki green. I loved doing this one. It was so surprising how dark green that color came out. See, beautiful khaki army green. Love, love, love. More scraps that I dyed with. The red grass. We have this like invasive grass species in the wetland area of our backyard. And I picked it and made it for dye, and it turned all these colors, like red and green and bright green. It obviously got interacted with a bunch of mordants, but I thought it came out beautiful, so I wanted to keep it. Look at how dark that black walnut came out too. Mordanted with iron and then modified with iron. It came out nearly black. And this one's goldenrod with wood ash. Then it started to become fall, so I made a headband with this bright green yarn, and I did a tutorial on this one. This is the braided headband. Still doing natural dye though. I did some goldenrod, drew out my pictures of what it looks like to me, and then I have some of the yarn in my book so I can see how it ages. Also goldenrod with alum, goldenrod with wood ash, and goldenrod with iron. You can see a range of colors can be achieved from that one plant as well. The red grass, the yarn turned green. The paper turned different colors, but the red grass turned green. Basket weave towels, still haven't filmed this one, but I've got the instructions, which is a good start. Oh, baby booties. Wow, I typed the instructions. So fancy, Laura. And then my picture of them. Oh, iron mordant, how I make iron mordant. So this one I did on a separate sheet of paper, and I just taped it into my bullet journal because it's from this time. And then I have a script, that's just a script. And some samples of the same dyes again. The plant pot basket weave winter cozy. That tutorial is on my channel as well. That's for a 6-inch pot. And these are my little pothos drawings. And then I had the matching braided fingerless glove to that headband. So this was that pattern. And then last but not least on this bullet journal, I drew myself a little mandala sort of thing. I was trying to make a plant holder, and this would be the bottom of it, but I couldn't get the math right. I kept screwing it up. But that is Ellison. I liked that name, so I wrote it down. Somebody in the live stream had someone named Ellison. I'd never heard of it before, so I wrote it down because I liked it. But that is my 2019 bullet journal. That's everything that's in there. I really hope that you liked this video. I hope that it was what you were looking for when you have requested to see my bullet journal. I tried to pass through everything that's in here so that you could kind of get an idea of what I use my bullet journal for when it comes to crafty stuff. And honestly, I really hope it inspires you to start bullet journaling. Like, you don't need to write things down, but stick in little samples, draw things that you've made, write down how you were feeling about things that you've made, because it's so much fun to go through later. It's like a photo album. You get to go through and reminisce how you were feeling like when you made certain things. Like, I know exactly where my heart was at when I was like making these designs, you know? And when you look back at them, like, good things are coming. I was obviously needing to hear that, so I wrote it out. And I just love that. I love being able to look back, and I don't have this sweater, but I have the drawing that I made of it, and I have what pattern pieces I used. So I don't know, it's like inspiration for the future, but it's also a really great memory tool. So if you haven't ever done any bullet journaling, I really highly recommend it. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed going through my bullet journal with you. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for liking and subscribing to the channel. Hit the notification bell if that's your thing. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.